designed to bring you your very own private lesson from the top competitors with as much detail as possible. My name is Paul Cole, and I'm a second degree black belt from Five Rings Grappling Academy in Mansfield and Sheffield. You can check us out at fiveringsbjj.com. Each episode, I intend to bring you the inside information of what is going on by watching a match with a competitor and breaking it down with them for you. Today we have the Yorkshire gripper, Mr. Lloyd Cooper from Combat Base Gaul, going over his match from Grapplefest 1 with the great Bryn Jenkins. With that, let's roll. Match from Grapplefest 1, was it? Grapplefest 1? Yeah, against Bryn. What sort of training had you done leading up to it? Because Bryn's obviously fairly well known.
I've known Bryn for years. You know, he's quite a reserved guy, but I think the first major comp I did at Purple Belt was 820. That was like all 8 purple belts under 80 kilos from around the UK and Ireland. So it was kind of like an early who's who of that, you know, like the current stable of guys, you know, like Marcus Phelan, Sean McDonough, and people like that. I was in that tournament and Bryn won that, and you know what I mean, he looked extremely convincing. So he's been around for a long time. He's very reserved. You know, he's not your typical athlete pushing himself on social media. He's building his gym's brand and stuff. But so I knew he was a really, really good competitor. I think, you know, we're trying to build the team in Gaul, and we're not as big, not as deep in terms of talent on the mat in Gaul. So I felt like a lot of pressure in terms of training. So, you know, I knew it was going to be a tough match. I accepted it straight away. I had not fought Bryn before. So, you know, I think really I don't tend to structure my training too much in terms of what my opponent can do. Like, I'll have a cursory look, you know, before matches, see what they do. Like, I knew Bryn was really good on like passing, knee cutting and things like that. So I knew that would definitely be a factor. I'd have to keep tight, but really I try to focus. If I know they're a good opponent, it tends to just drive my level of training a little bit higher. You know what I mean? I'll push that a little bit harder. But I suppose if I had to do anything for specificity, it'd be watching the gaps between my knees, because and you'll see in the match, actually, he did hit a pass off that. His ability to change directions from like one side to a knee cut to another is exceptional. And it was just taking care of like the laxity in my knees and stuff like that between some of my hip switches. That's one thing I did try to work on before the match. So it was really interesting matches, and I think if you look at, like, let's say my later career or the last couple of years since this point, this was a bit of a turning point for me. It really made me realise, you know, even though we've got a small team in Gaul, and you know what I mean, we're not in the middle of London with 200 guys in the mat. If you train the right way, you train hard, and you do the correct things, you can actually still achieve really good outcomes. You know what I mean? So it was a bit of a mental game changer for me. This one it really was.
Yeah, I was on the mat when Braulio was brown belt getting ready for the Pans, and he just moved over to the UK, and he had whites and blues to get ready, and he submitted, I think, 7 opponents in about 4.5 minutes because he just got everyone to kill him. He put himself in really, really bad positions and just fought his way out. Technically, he was all, you know, he wasn't going to really lose anything, but it was more the fight that he got. He just got people to smash him, really.
Yeah.
So absolutely, I think you did the right thing the way that you structured your training.
I definitely think there's a lot in that, you know. It's very easy as soon as you get to a certain level of progression that you can dictate how most roles go. Unless you're very honest and open with yourself, you know, you'll find yourself destroying everybody all night, getting 20 subs a night, going out feeling like a champion, but you've not actually done a great deal for your mental performance. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think true growth comes when you're feeling that level of adversity in the gym or whatever it is. You know what I mean? And you've got to be a very strong-minded individual to choose to put yourself in these positions. You know what I mean? It's
absolutely.
It can be very easy to come in and just be like, oh, I know which roles are good. I'm going to pick those, and I'm not really going to get tapped. Especially, you know, people always ask me, oh, what's it like to be a black belt? Is it cool? I'm like, no, because the target on your back is ever bigger. You know, I've not had a single role that has been nice since I've been a black belt, because everyone's trying to kill you. But on the same, so it could be easy to slip into the game plan of, right, I'm just going to muller everybody, just keep them at arm's distance. But you're not still learning as a result of that. You know what I mean? So I'm, especially in my training, I tend to let people get quite deep on stuff, especially like leg locks and heel hooks, get them locked up, and then I'll start to mount my defense. You know what I mean? Let it go later than it would, because then that'll replicate potentially higher level opponents that I might face are actually getting me in these positions. And then I've got to work my way out.
Yeah.
So I think, you know.
No.
Sorry, go on.
Go on. So, what was you saying? Sorry.
I just think if there's one piece of advice that for anybody, especially if you're not in a super stacked gym, or if you find yourself drifting towards the top of the pack, is look for ways to get yourself challenged. And, you know, like you say, is getting absolutely mullered in bad positions, or allowing people to get to the bad positions and then really try and work through it.
Okay. Well, let's get, I think that's great advice. Absolutely great advice. And anyone can follow it. That's the main thing. You know, whether there's guys that are king of the blue belts, or the guys that are running the gyms themselves, it's really, really good advice. It's taking the ego out of it, which people say there's no ego in jiu-jitsu. I think there has to be, obviously, because you're competing. But definitely it's taking that step back and seeing that things are training rather than, you know, you're training for something. So to do that, you have to be bad at it to start with.
Definitely.
Yeah.
You know, like, I think the ego one's an interesting one, because if you ask me, Mrs., do I have an ego? She'd say, yeah, an outrageous one. You know what I mean? So, and I definitely do not like to lose. I'm extremely competitive. Having said that, I remember when Gary Tonin said something like, I'm tapping 15 times a night, and if you're not tapping, you're doing something wrong. Yeah, and I was like, right, you know what I mean? I really get where he's coming from there, you know what I mean? Because you're not experimenting, you're operating within your zone of comfort all the time, or your zone of control, let's say. And I think I can't remember seeing it, it might have been Osho quote, something like that. And he was talking about like a snail or something like that, or yeah, probably a snail. But it was like, look, it lives within a certain size shell. It's a set period, okay? So it grows, it has a comfortable life. It grows until it starts to fill up that shell. And when it starts to get, quite tight within the shell, it experiences pain and discomfort. So, and when it starts to feel the pain and discomfort, it realizes it needs to move on to do something different. So then it leaves the shell, it goes away and finds a different shell and inhabits a bigger one. But then the basic element of that is the catalyst for growth is being at the edge of your limits, or your discomfort zone. So actually, when you start to push yourself there, that's when you're gonna retain a higher level.
Yeah, it's there's no growth within your comfort zone sort of principle, isn't it?
Definitely.
Okay, right.
So the little jumps is a mental set for me. So that's you see all my matches, I'll do that jump. That's getting myself into the zone.
Anchor.
So
yeah.
Just pause here 1 sec. So I always pull. Again, it's no secret. I think anybody who's studied my games, I always pull right hip down.
Mm-hmm.
So you see, I'm trying to feed my right leg in deep for the half guard there.
Yeah.
The moment so the gap between my heel and the rest of my Achilles and Bryn's leg is a bit of a problem. So I'll look in a moment. I should start to extract that. So you see, Bryn, he knew I was going to try and leg lock him. So throughout this match, he was sitting extremely heavy with great posture.
Yeah, so he keeps his ankles together close.
Yeah, and to be fair, in terms of anti-leg lock game, cool. So there, I'm starting to extract, and I'm trying to flick out my left leg to get a little bit of lift there. Mm-hmm. Now I'm starting to rotate out.
So you're saying, just 1 second, that the space between your heel and the pit of his knee is an issue for you right now?
Yes, because that means that my knee is too deep within his legs. So if you imagine that's between Bryn's legs, okay?
Yeah.
If my leg there's a gap, here to the rest of his leg, my knee's in range of his both thighs, so he can clamp.
Of course,
okay?
Yeah.
It's really, really, so my range is wrong in this position. So where I should have been in this position here is my toes locking onto his lower leg.
Okay, yeah, hooking the same way that Craig Jones and Yeah,
100%.
those guys do, yeah. Okay.
And so then my knee would be shallow out, okay? So he was very good at doing that. So then I was forced to elevate quite heavily there. Go back half a step. So because I realised my knee was very, very deep, and again, I was in danger. So if at that point if he clamps his legs up, he's got one hip controlled, then the next logical step from having my hip controlled is forward pressure to control my
yeah, the staple into the floor, the crossface.
Absolutely. So you know what I mean, in terms of layers of defense, you know, both knees and hips, I've given 2 layers up there on one side, knee and then the hip, and all I've got left is my right hand. So then to counter that, I really needed to lift very aggressively here. So with the butterfly hook, which is great. So that like half butterfly guard is a bit of a get out of jail free. So if you crap with your bottom leg, at the very least, you can be very aggressive with like a paddle lift.
Yeah, and with them driving forward, it makes it a bit easier as well, I would have thought.
100%, yeah. So if he loads on that as well, you know, if he's trying to keep weight forward into me, this butterfly hook I've put in, it's very easy for me to tip weight over. And then what I wanted, the entire game plan for this was trying to get under the leg you can see here is to try and get under that. So if we can get, yeah.
Okay.
So luckily, you know, I got into this position, but he notices what I'm doing straight away. So the next couple of frames, you see I get underneath, but then he'll quickly start to get his knee out of the way.
Okay, so we'll go.
Actually, I think we put, yeah, see how he's dropping his knee now? He realizes I was trying to hook underneath. He's dropping his knees. And again, really good point, you know, not just for my performance, but look at Bryn's toes.
Yeah, they're active.
He's engaged. Yeah. So, you know, that's one thing I really drive a lot of guys is like, get on your toes, because if you imagine your posture when you just sat on your heels, your back, as soon as you engage your toes, your hips are squared. You've got you've engaged all your chain at the back, your hamstrings, your butt. So, you know what I mean? If I try to load him, he could push his hips forward. So, you know, because as you can see, my posture here is butterfly guard, but it is all about pulling Bryn forward.
With this hand, I'm trying to see where there we go. So, I think, so with this hand here,
yes,
get off that colour. Let me go into that. So this hand here is the one that's obviously looking to pull him forwards, and with your posture. And then what you're saying is Bryn being on his toes. Here is going to allow him to send his hips forward, effectively sprawling through the pull.
Yeah, it's like rather than, you know, everyone's taught traditional sprawl is face down. But if I'm going to be loading him towards me, all he's going to do is engage his hips forwards, because that's going to take some of the power out of my load. You know, and the traditional way of loading is rolling back and pulling. As you can see, I've tried to do the opposite. I've scooted my bum inwards, so I'm super tight, but still, the toes really made it difficult for me to load his weight here. So I might get his head moving forward, but it's very unsuccessful.
Okay, let's, if I close this, we'll keep going.
I'm very impressed with your Zoom skills anyway.
Thanks. I've been working on it. I'm now a blue belt.
There we go. So you see how I tried the load, didn't work. He was able to scoot his left leg back out, and he's repummeling for central position. And all the time, you see I was trying to split my legs, his left arm in position. So
right
again,
on the toes.
Yeah, and this is where he's looking for his knee cut. Okay, so if he can spread my legs, he's pummeling his legs inside. So if he occupies that inner space, he's got free reign then. So you can see here, Bryn's left knee, he could knee cut to the left hand side of the frame, but I'm very heavily engaged onto my right hip, so that will be difficult at this point.
Yeah, is your right arm tucked in, so effectively hiding the floor?
Yeah, I'm trying to kill the space at this point. So if he was to start knee cutting to my right, again, I'm blocked on that side. So at the least, I'm in a defensive posture. But all the time, he's trying to pummel inside. So the fight that's going off here is me trying to clear his hand off my foot, and then you're going to see I'm going to start pummeling my left foot in at this point.
Okay, so Need to figure out a way to get YouTube to keep
Space bar, maybe.
No, it's not working,
So
unfortunately.
there you go. Left leg came in. He's heavily engaged. I'm trying to make distance. So look, and then a shrimp away.
And that was the toes that you were talking about, right?
Yeah. So look, again, he's on his toes, but you see how he's gripping my heel?
Yeah.
To be fair, I'm sure there's a way on YouTube you could do half speed. Maybe.
Yes, there is. Yeah. Let me stop this first. So
there we go. Yeah, let's go with that. So look, and now I was too close, so I shrimped out. Again,
they're the toes that you were talking about, right?
That's it. That's exactly the position. So now my knee is difficult to see, but my knee was far enough away that he couldn't clamp on.
Mm-hmm. Affect it in front of his hip, like a frame in itself.
Yeah, 100%. So now I realised the half butterfly wasn't working very well at this point. So we're a minute into the fight. I was playing the bottom half guard with the butterfly hook in, but again, as you've seen, he's been very good at pushing out and clearing and stuff like that. So this is when I tried to go to Z guard. I didn't feel like the risk for me with Z guard here is, if you see, look at the back of my thigh, there's the gap there. So the smash pass is always prevalent versus Z guard.
So this gap.
Yes, exactly. So that is an inherent risk of playing this guard, and it's not something I tend to do often. But I guess the greater context is that, look, he knew I wanted to leg lock him, so therefore he didn't want to allow his forward posture to have his posture compromised in a forward fashion. So therefore, I know he's never going to commit too heavy to the pass. He's going to be more likely to speed pass as opposed to pressure pass.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, that leaving that gap open is probably less of a risk in this position, because I know he's not going to commit too heavily onto it. But now, by playing this, I can keep his near side hip at distance by extending my hip. So then I'm focusing my activity with my upper body on grip fighting on the far side.
Yeah, that's a question that I was going to ask. So shall I keep going?
Yeah, okay, let's go for it.
Okay. So a lot of leg lockers will play the 2-on-1 grip on the far wrist. Craig Jones again is a favourite at it. Eddie Cummings would play 2-on-1 constantly, and like I know that square up, it's to get the arm over the shoulder. Do you want to go over something here?
Go back a little bit. See, the thing is, I'm trying. Is so good at shutting down a lot of my gains. So you see the active post he's got on my hip there.
There.
Yeah, so that's stopping my ability to get like any sort of distance change. And the key for me, like in leg locks, is how can I use my legs and my upper body posture, but actually to get underneath him sufficiently. And obviously, by stapling my hip in that position, he's precluding me from doing that. So really, I'm altering between far grips, 2-on-1s to try and circle him to bait the underhook. So in terms of, you'll see in a moment, I tried to play a deep underhook, but it was only a bit of a feint to clear out the hip. Again, you're going to play that kind of old school half guard game. The end point for that is you're coming up and wrestling up, or you're going to your head under for deep halves. But what I really wanted was that far side, because if he's already leaning into this side, and I can get a sufficient 2-on-1 grip, that's when I get the posture break I require.
Okay.
So all of this is centered around, really, I want to get a good plant of his hands onto the floor. And as you can see, Bryn is really aggressively keeping his hands on me as much as he possibly can. Look, that for me was a feint. So now you see I drop the leg out. I'm trying to allow myself to get closer underneath him. He's keeping me at distance, so I have to re-establish the knee shield.
He was in control of your wrist there as well, wasn't he?
Yeah, because again, so he was trying to shove that down and away because, yeah, you see here. So exactly, because he knows my left hand at this point. I'm trying to get his hand low to his knee, but then fundamentally, my left hand would be trying to fire underneath his kneecap on the second side.
Okay.
So try the 2-on-1, but again, as soon as he sees me going for that, he keeps circling it out. So again, I'm trying to bait the half guard, trying to shoot in. Now I'm switching now to butterfly double unders. I'm not having much joy either side with any elevation attempt. So I'm circling back out. But you see, go back half a step, see what he did here. Now, this is where the game started to change, and I realised I've got an opportunity. So, butterfly, as we're rolling through, he back steps hard off his left, circling inside. There. So you see, Bryn's left leg is now inside my kneecap, okay? Mm-hmm. So you'll see
his
any leg lock.
That's his foot, isn't it?
Yeah, so if you imagine that's my right leg, Bryn's brought his toes and he's hooking inside here. Yeah. So again, the one thing you're told by any like Danaher guys, and whoever occupies the inner space is obviously going to win that battle. So he'd actually took his leg pummeling game up one level here. So up till this point, he's been knees on the ground, toes engaged. But then he's actually circled inside now. So in theory, he's completely keeping my, if you look at my right knee at this point.
Yeah.
As I mentioned earlier, if I allowed my right toes to be too far off his leg, my knee's in range and he can get over the top. But actually, by playing that hook, he's completely cut out that leg. So he's even further up my body than before. So this is, let's say, the beginning of the end in terms of him passing me in a couple of minutes, because he's changed the game and I'd not adjusted properly yet. But I realised that my half butterfly and underhook game, because he was playing the hooks, had to change at this point.
Okay. So
this really caught me by surprise. And it's not something that I'd had done to me too much in the gym.
Okay.
Boom. Exactly.
And again, that knee cut.
You know, and I think this fight gets a lot of press because it's there's a good finish by me, but actually the performance Bryn did was is really impressive. So give me back up probably like 5-6 seconds for that whole sequence. And again, this is a really good way of passing. So I'm in butterfly, I'll elevate, he back steps over left.
So we're just
back steps over.
Back steps. And that was the switch, right?
He's completely changed the game here, you know what I mean? And if there's ever an argument for not adjusting quickly enough, this is it. And he passes me from it. Because he changed the game at this point. Up till now, it was me playing half guard with the butterfly hook him toes down. He changed the game. Look, I start to lift with my left hook. He changes direction.
With the underhook and the crossface.
Perfect. Absolutely perfect in terms of pass. Look, I've got a very weak quarter guard. He's heavy forward pressure. I'm playing the dick move, pushing him in the throat. But look, it's done at this point. You see...
So you've got the half guard there, the frame here. This is sort of your leg configuration needs to be the opposite way, doesn't it, to keep that foot? That was a lot went into that pass, didn't it?
It really caught me by surprise. Like I said, just the game-changing element of switching from knees down, toes engaged to hook inside the leg. It was really impressive. And that, to be fair, this pass is something that I've built into my own game as a result. I think in the last couple of years, this is the only time we've been passing competition.
Mm-hmm. So, because this was another thing I was going to ask is... he gets through and then you go to bridge out. Was that with the intention of coming out this way?
Yeah, kind of. To be fair, it was a little bit half-assed. Like by the time he'd got me, over under control, he got my hips to the floor, even with quarter guard. I knew the pass was there. So especially from a sub-only point of view, I wasn't invested in fighting that too much at this point. So for me, what I wanted to do is try and create as much twisting angle as possible. So you'll see me start to rotate a little bit, but I think again probably caught me a little bit surprised. It was half-assed attempt. So there. So now very keen for me at this point, rather than being flat is to be dead at this point here. Okay. So you see how Bryn's trying to squash me down. I'm talking some crap in his ear.
I'm going to say there was something being said because you were both laughing. I was going to ask.
No, it just, I think I said something like, I fucking knew you'd get that knee. I knew you would, that was it. So, and he laughed. But look, so you see what I'm trying to do here, right, is I'm trying to curve up my body as much as possible. If I'm flat, then I'm dead. So you see, look what I'm doing with my left knee. I'm trying to bring my knee up very, very heavy. But actually, so then one thing I always talk about is a build up of kinetic energy, right? Is if I had to at this point, I could aggressively flop backwards and I can do some kind of a movement. That's going to create, as a catalyst. If I'm flat, I'm static. I've got nothing.
There's no explosive movement really, not without your feet being on the floor.
Pure strength. So here, at least I've given myself an option where if I want to move or shrimp, I've got at least, I don't know, underneath my head, the 8 inches underneath my head that I could flop backwards and start to move. So what I'm trying to do as well is butt scoot backwards sufficiently so I can actually get my left leg back inside at this point.
Was it ever in mind to turtle and use this hand like to block the threading hook, or not at all?
Yeah, definitely. For me, I guess I've got two options. Either I turn back to face him and go flat, or I continue the roll out. And again, more of a critique on myself. The times when I tend to do that escape, I get my back taken. And I really, and I know Bryn finishes, he's got a high finishing rate from the back. So I didn't want to do a full commitment to my knees at this point. So that was the worry. So for me here and now, it's about just creating enough space so I can actually create a little bit of a scramble. Keep going. So now
what I'll do, I might just turn it up to 75. 0.75, should I say?
Okay, so look, I'm trying to shoot. I've realized, so if you go back half a step, so this is what I talk about, like the build up of kinetic energy. So as I've got my body quite circular at this point, I'm not flat. So in theory, I can then rotate inwards. So my body would go from facing, I don't know if this is going to work when you play it back, but facing this way, I can start a rotation. That will create space between me and Bryn. And then I'm going to use my knees at this point to start to exploit some of that gap. Yeah, heavy turn in, old school, but look, I'm now bridging.
Yeah.
I mean, it's old school, day one white belt stuff, but, I've created space. I'm shrimping under. Now, as I've got to that position, I'm making the space where I've got the heavy post with my arms there.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean when I talk to my guys about kinetic energy, is give myself enough of a build up that when I do want to move, I can quickly get my frames in place. So if I'd have gone flat there, I wouldn't have been in a position. I would have been flat and tried to turn. There would have been no space available for me to actually get these arms in. So the only reason this worked is because I'd sat up very heavy straight away.
So let's go back to that, because that's the start of you getting your guard back.
Yeah.
So or at least have the ability to point your knees towards him. Definitely.
Well, I'm on my side. Now I'm starting to make my escape. Heavy twist, but look, push. I've made enough space. And you see I'm heavily rotating my knees into that gap. You know what? The ideal would be getting my feet in, but at the very least, I just want to get contacts with my shin on his upper body, because then once I've got that upper body contact, I can then move my head out the way and I can reset like we did there. So now, I think I've realized at this point, I was like, right, I need to watch out for that that second hook coming in, because that's his way to pass. I need to be really, really careful. So I think right leg engages, trying to go deep half again, not deep half, so half butterfly. Look, and he's backing up. So that interested me, because he went to his knee. That's something he hadn't done before. Yeah, I was like, okay. So
this knee here
is his left knee. So what I was looking for here, again, usually.
Sorry, his left knee. This one.
So watch it. He brings this one up.
Okay.
The people tend to have a preference on which one they're going to keep down. So there. So look, that says to me he wants to knee cut me with his left leg. The last time wasn't a fluke. That's what he's going to try and do again. So he's going to start to rotate that one. If anything, he's staying heavy down on his right side. He's going to pummel with his left and use that to pass.
Yeah, there, going that way.
So, and that suggests to me, from a leg locking point of view, I need to stay right hip down, because his left side or my right side is going to be lighter. Therefore, I can get underneath it better. Mm-hmm. So that's why I'm engaging back in very heavily, right leg down. Good shot of my tricep there, by the way.
Oh, there. 1 second. We'll get a proper one. Look at that. Working out. That's yoga for jiu-jitsu, that, isn't it? It's all those kettlebells I'm seeing you doing on Instagram.
Jesus Christ.
There it was again.
Okay. But look, this was really, really interesting. I was like, wow, he's actually giving me the knee this time. So I think his level of confidence had gone up since he passed me, you know what I mean? So he was willing to go for more. So look, he's stepping inside. So now, okay, you've given me that leg. Let's try reverse De La Riva at this point. So he's still keeping the leg up. Again,
and you've still got the strong frame there.
Yeah. So it was interesting because I don't know whether he'd intentionally done that, but as he stepped his left leg forward, I was like, okay, I've now got an opportunity to try a guard I've not done yet. Because here, you see this huge amount of space between his groin and then the inside of his leg. So actually, let's go reverse De La Riva, because that's an easier way of off balance him here.
This
what
space
I want to do,
here, and this space here.
Yes. Because now if I get my left leg into position and I can start to invert, I know I can load his weight at this point.
Which so was there.
You start to see, obviously, if we look at our angles at the beginning, the parallel, and I start to try and move my head to more of a perpendicular position. I'm trying to force my head deep underneath.
So under that space there.
And my left leg being in the reverse De La Riva, the more I can kick it out to the right, the more I'm going to compromise his base, which will allow me to get deeper underneath.
So, sorry. Your left leg is kicking him out in that direction?
Exactly. So you see how Bryn's upper body's now bracing in that way, because that's the direction of movement is that way. Whereas I'm doing exactly the opposite with my upper body. I'm trying to move left. So then the more I can elongate his body in a horizontal fashion, it allows me to get deeper underneath. But again, he's gone heavy. So now I'm trying to kick back inside. I go to Z-guard, extending away. I realise the reverse De La Riva's gone. He's dropped his knee, keeping the distance.
He's dropped his knee, but not fully.
No.
His knee isn't fully on the floor, is it? Is that causing you any issues? Would it have been easier if his knee had have been on the floor?
Not so much really, because I guess it's kind of a halfway position. It didn't concern me there. To be fair, I'm struggling to see the benefit of him hovering it between, because his base isn't fantastic at that point. So look, I think he's trying to look for hooks. So I go to a traditional half guard. As we start to move this frame through, he's pushing my foot again, but you'll see he's going to look for the second hook in. He's lifting his leg. So I have to re-establish a traditional half guard just to keep that out of the way.
You've got shin on shin there as well. What I just saw that was interesting was the amount of credit you gave him for being on his toes earlier and for the explosive movement that it would give him. And if you watch this spin here, he's not actually on his toes. And he's not on his toes throughout any of it. Like, he's sliding around there, which is allowing you
to establish the hook.
To get that hook, yeah.
So I think, and again, the only thing I'm presuming, but I think the reason for that is he'd had that level of success in making the pass early, you know what I mean, by bringing the second hook in. So I was trying to play the shin, to forward load him. So now I was trying to go super heavy. I've got a I'm quite in risk at this point, actually. So I wouldn't advise doing any of this. If we go back a couple of frames, I've dug in my right hook very, very deep at this point. I've got a deep underhook here. So again, I'm trying to almost butterfly lift my right foot over. But again, back to the point I made right at the beginning. Look at my left leg here. I know it's covered up by the timer. It's so, so deep. My foot is sticking out probably about that much. And again, it's not the way I should have been doing things. I should have been clamping onto his bottom leg so I can compromise completely.
Here.
Yeah. Yes. Should have been clamping on with that foot and giving no gap, so then I could at least completely exploit that leg. I can lift the hip, but also I can keep the foot in position, which will allow him to tilt more.
Okay. One thing he does again in a second is here.
There you go.
He finds that pummel again, doesn't he? That inside space.
This is on the opposite side to which he passed me.
Mm-hmm.
So look, I go straight back to butterfly, realise he's trying to do that, so I switch sides to try and counter that hook he's got, and I'm trying to make distance and pummel my left leg in to reset the position. But you see how heavy he is on this left side as a result of that?
Yeah, his base essentially is in between. This is his baseline, isn't it, across here? So this triangle is where his base is, making his right leg as light as it's going to be, because this left hand is at its heaviest right now.
Yeah, so, and I think by this point it started to click, so that I'd realised he'd changed his tact in terms of passing, and the advantage the hooking gives you in terms of direction change for the knee cut, but actually he's doing half of the job for me in terms of compromising his base. I mean, it started the fight, it was very upright, very square, and because he's wanting to get a knee cut again, he's almost taking, he's compromising his base by 45 degrees here.
Yeah, with his head being here rather than sort of there.
Yep, 100%. So now I start to realise, okay, so I'm not going to get a beautiful lift, get underneath. I need to start looking at exploiting the fact that he's off centre and starting to. So actually what I wanted before we get to the knee crush was I wanted to start looking just towards the toes and pulling out like laterally at this point. That's what you see, my hands down there. If I could have dove inside, I'd have got his heel and started to pull it towards me.
These toes.
Yeah, so
bringing the knee across this line here, going
yeah,
almost belly down to control this.
Yeah, because he's like heavy on that side, his reaction time his ability to be able to like get his leg free is going to be reduced because his weight's on it. So if I can get my right hand here down onto his heel, I can start to pull that towards me, and that will further break his base. That's very Craig Jones style, like getting the heel, pulling it towards you.
Yeah.
So again, he stays heavy. I'm going to 2-on-1, back into the same game we've been doing most of the time.
And this 2-on-1 in this position right here is for what purpose?
So I'm trying to keep his arm in. So what I was hoping to do, so I'm playing a knee shield at this point, a Z-guard. So if I can keep that nice and tight, if I can drop that leg out, and then I can start to pull that over the top of me, then I'm going to be able to get enough of an entry underneath.
Would you be pulling his hand in this direction?
Yes. Yeah, definitely. At the minute, his elbow's into my thigh, which is almost like a bit of a base for him. So I'm going to do a pummel, and then obviously the removal of my thigh underneath is going to cause his upper body to drop. So look, thigh starts to move, trying to pull, miss that. Here we go. Z-guard, I'm kind of running out of ideas now, but I'm realising that he's allowing me to get his base over onto his side really heavy. So all my traditional game had gone at this point. I'd, getting underneath, trying to lift. But the one thing I did start to realise is he's very off-centre.
So had the game plan into this fight been the ankle or the heel?
So again, most of my fights, and again, it's no
Yeah.
secret, I'm going to try and pull guard. I'm going to try and load you up underneath and get into your legs. The game plan here actually was, if I can't leg lock him, in terms of getting underneath, is actually to start sweeping later on into the fight. But actually, so the key was at 5 minute mark is if I have no look from the bottom, is get on top and start to pass.
So one thing I just noticed was here that's you stretching your arm out and putting your head under. Have you got the Z guard still, the Z guard, or have you've not gone to half butterfly yet?
Go
Have
back
you?
half a step. So
So
that is a massive risk.
yeah, because the guillotine, what that would do is if he'd let go of that to go to the neck, but then obviously would give you the arm free
Compromise the
to
face.
elevate up. Yeah, so it was a calculated risk. It wasn't just sort of.
Because if he'd have gone to the head, I could have either swept or at the very least his weight's then on the floor forwards. So it's almost a bait at this point. But the beauty of that is if he does wrap my head and I've still got the knee shield in, I can start to extend my lower back. I can create enough pressure away so I can start to power back out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Look, he's squaring up and he's now thinking. So you see how he's hovering his right leg? He's now thinking about circling again. So at some point he's gonna start to pummel back inside, staying heavy. So he really wants a leg inside at this point. He just tried it with his right leg.
Yeah, and he's set up the crossface, thinking, well, now as soon as I get the hook, I'm past again.
Yeah, so if he's got that, he can pummel. He realizes he can get it. He can then look. You see how it go back there? He almost hovered for it. Then, if he'd have had the leg, it'd have gone for the knee cut again. So here he will be trying to get his far leg back inside. He hovers the hips.
This leg or this leg? Sorry.
So the leg we can't see, Bryn's left at this point.
This.
Yes. So if he'd have had the hook in at that point, he's already posting on the floor in anticipation of it, because those posts are going to allow him to change direction real quick. So I'm realizing that at this point. So that's why I'm doing a very heavy lift to kick him away from me at this point. Lift, extend away, realize I'm in danger, kick away. So now this is the beginning of the end, I think. So look, reset, let's make distance. I'm back to the square one. But he's now increasing in confidence with realizing he can hover his hips and he can get that second leg in. He knows that's the way to pass and he's still trying to do that. So then he starts to again, he's hovering that up. So he's keeping that left leg loose. So if he needs to, and I start to lift, here we go. So I'll come in, see that?
Yeah.
Exactly. So let's go back like 4 or 5 seconds just to the start of the encounter. So as he starts to, I think maybe just before this, he's on his toe. There you go. See how he's raising that knee already? His left knee is lighter here. So he knows I'm going to try and engage right hip down. Okay, but he's giving himself that option again. That's the pass he wants. He wants the leg hook and he wants the knee cut facing the screen towards us on my left hip.
Mm-hmm. So again, in this direction.
Yeah, nice. So again, he goes in. But this time he's successful at doing it. But what I'd already thought by this point is, how can I really exploit that? He's going to be heavy then on his left leg. So he comes in. I go deep. Look, boom, straight away. I'm trying to go for my Z guard. He's then engaged. So if my leg's like that, his toes are in at this point. But look at Bryn's base on his right knee. As soon as he gets established with that left leg in, his right knee becomes light. Boom. See that?
Yeah.
That means to me his base is heavily over there.
So this knee is light. His base is all the way in this direction.
Nice. So now I triple down on trying to move my base in towards that direction. So look, I'm throwing my right arm inside. You see that?
Mm-hmm.
but then I throw my leg into position.
And this was the...
Yeah, so as he's over, I've started to scoot my, that's a perfect shot actually. I've scooted my upper body down because he's so heavy.
His base is there.
Yes. But that's allowed me, see my hand in position. I've gone around his knee and come uphill.
And his leg is in this space here?
Yes. Nice. So now, once I've got that arm in position, I've locked it. In effect, if he wants to retain the hook inside my thigh, I've locked it into position. He now can't start to pummel his knee back out by me holding that. And so then the next thing for me to do is my left leg is, has to go across. So I was in Z guard. So now I'm starting to push off his hip at this position. So I'm maintaining the bend in his knee, but I'm keeping him. Yes. I'm keeping him off balance.
Your foot is in the hip here, and this hand is in a RNC grip behind his knee pit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. So heavy push with my left leg, just to keep his base off me. Push. So I made the distance now. That got my hips sufficiently far away.
Did he actually pull your leg across there?
Let's go. I think what he was trying to do, like the thing he was doing most of the fight, was trying to pull the knee to try and clear the foot out. So here you see his hands in position. What he'd been doing most of the fight was pulling the kneecap. However, because I got my foot into position, I don't think he'd probably realised I'd changed my foot positioning from outside into Z guard onto his belly.
So when you say pull, you're talking about this hand here, and are you saying to pull it past him or to pull it open?
He's trying to clear pull it past. So if he pulls my knee sufficiently down, my foot disappears
into a standard half guard almost.
And then he can start to raise his right knee up to come to a near side cut this time.
Okay, so
you want to go for half speed at this point?
I am in half speed.
Ah, right.
Oops. 1 second. We can go slower though.
All right, okay, cool. So here we go. I've established the arm. I did a little shove with the shin. I get my foot to the hip. I do a further push. That gets me enough space now. You see how his body's far enough away from me and my hips that I can actually rotate my left leg at this point.
So this is in the perfect position for you, or what you would deem it to be the perfect position. His base is here. You've got a frame here, a frame here, and a wedge there.
Yes.
So there's a lot going on in this.
The bottom one for me is if I'd have not done that, if I'd have not controlled Bryn's bottom leg with my right foot there, he'd have been at liberty really to just extend his leg straight, and then it'd have changed the base completely. So as much as it had been far over, he could have started to angle his base somewhat different.
Yeah, the hip could have hit the floor and it'd be in a sort of pigeon pose.
Yeah, kind of, definitely. But the fact that I'm keeping that tight and I'm pushing him over, he's almost leaning backwards onto the left. So the leg I'm attacking is the forwardmost point of his body at this point.
This.
Yes. Yeah. Which is typically from a leg locking point of view, doesn't happen very often. You know, it's usually their arms, the upper body, the hips, and then the legs that last.
Yeah, you've usually got to get past all of this, haven't you, to get to what you want.
Definitely. So I've been able to actually, by pushing his hips, pushing and trapping that bottom leg, actually get one leg furthest forward and into range for attack. Heavy push, my arms in position. Now I'm sliding very, very heavy my left leg across here. I get the triangle. Now, you see how I'm rotating my head across?
I can see that.
To this, right?
There's some gritted teeth going on there.
So The one thing a lot of people mess up is they try and finish it on the side that you set it up. But the way to get the finish on this is if Bryn's toes stay on the floor, you won't get the finish. So if I try, once I've locked up here, watch Bryn's toes slide into my butt cheek, but look, and then it's very difficult because it's shadowy. But as I rotate to my left, I make Bryn's feet airborne. You see how I'm raising my hips? Go, you see the little gap from the floor? So look, Bryn's toes are on the mat.
Yeah. Toes are on the mat there.
So the big mistake is people lock it up on that side and keep the toes in the mat. But if his toes in the mat, he can exert force in the floor and stand up.
Mm-hmm.
Feet across, make the triangle. Now, I'm already moving my head out of position. I squared up his base, but here it's still difficult to finish in this position because he's square. He can almost stand if he needed to, and he was able to get his right leg out. He could stand up and pressure out. So then my rotation's extremely heavy, twisting inside. So now, see how I'm pushing my hips off the floor?
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like it was designed to happen, but the shin locks into my butt crack at this point, and me raising the hips makes his toes come off the mat. So you see I'm pushing it extremely heavy. Look how high off the floor Bryn's feet are now.
Yeah, so that's about a foot off the floor.
Yeah.
Maybe. And you've just got a standard gable grip there with your hands.
No, I think I had, I 100% can't remember, but what I'm trying to do is turn the blade of my wrist directly behind the kneecap. So, you know, a lot of catch wrestlers talking about the blade on the bony bit of your wrist. I'm trying to keep that slicing through his knee, and I think I was either maybe over grip or it might have been a gable. I'm not 100% sure, but my appetite was to try and really slice through his knee at this point.
Okay, there's a...
Cool. Yeah, so heavy rotation. But look, I've really started to push my hips to the sky at this point. The more my hips are airborne, the more compression in his leg I can get.
Your thumb is pointing in that direction so that the blade of your forearm is cutting into the knee.
To be fair, it does look like a standard gable.
Yeah, but you've still got the way that you said, you're still pulling it in deep. Yeah.
So I often get asked what I say to him here, and all I said is tap, because what I'd heard is his patella ligament started to like pop a little bit.
Oh, okay.
So, you know what, and that's an interesting thing for me. Like, usually in competition, I'll go for it 100%. Either they tap or something breaks or whatever. And like I said, I have a lot of respect for Bryn, and I did at this point. And it was something I had to try and like understand afterwards why, you know, I knew I got it, but it was very unlike me to, let's say, hold the move somewhat and say, "Oh, do you tap?" And at the time, like I say, so I tapped. He shook his head. So then I continued to raise my hips, and I heard a really good pop at that point.
Okay, so let's watch it at full speed from the starting of the chain of movement. Because there was a lot went on in that 20 seconds. So we're under again, got the foot, he pummels, and then, yeah, it looks like he pulls your ankle across his, and then, yeah, and that was it. And I remember him because I was sat, and there's the scream, obviously. I was actually sat throughout all of this. No, Maya had fought this competition.
Okay.
So I am there. That's me.
All right, okay, cool.
So even though I wasn't mat side, I was mat side. I wasn't judging as I normally do at Grapple Fest, which I love doing. Because of matches like this, I get to watch as close as I could be. Sometimes I'm closer than the camera is, which is incredible. Yeah, but for this one, that's me sat there. Maya had just won. I think she fought Sophie Keenan the first match.
Okay.
Yeah. But if we go back to here again, so you've got.
Yeah, this is the last reset now. Sitting up. He raises his left knee. I think it's the last one. He starts to come in with the left knee up. He's getting ready to pummel that leg in. I realise I give him half guard. Now, heavy extension over, loads of distance, and a lock up. Heavy rotation inside, bridge my hips to the sky, and get the little crack from the knee. Douchebag level 10 celebration.
I remember the first time I saw you do it in person on Densetsu. Do you remember?
Let's go, champ.
Yeah, I think that's the one. Didn't you propose to Livy?
I did, yeah.
Yeah, that was incredible. That was amazing.
Didn't give her the chance to say yes or no because I dragged her on stage and just everyone was...
exactly.
So yeah, that was a good one. It's very much evolved over the years.
Yeah. So yeah, a great match from Figure 4 on Grapple Fest.
I definitely think from both perspectives though, like, you know, a lot of people ask me what one of my favourite matches is, and this is one of them. And it's not just because, you know, it's remembered for the rare submission, but actually I think Bryn's performance was really, really good and really sharp at this point. And, you know, he shut a lot of stuff down. He was changing strategies throughout the match, and it forced me to adapt. You know what I mean? It forced me to hit a move that I'd only, you know, messed around with a few times in the gym. So and again, a lot of respect and testament to Bryn on this one. You know, and it just came lucky that I've managed to get a fancy submission off the back of it, I guess.
It was a great performance by both of you. Very, very good. And a real key insight into everything that was going on, which was exactly what I wanted from the channel. So thank you very much.
No worries.
Have you got any, I know that you've got obviously the knee crush instructional coming out.
Yeah.
That's through, who's that through?
Combat Media, so www.combat-media.com. So we're actually going to not release it immediately because it's probably a bad time to release an instructional is when nobody's training at all. I think the novelty of instructionals are worn off. So we're going to wait until we realise lockdown's in a position where we can get back training. We're going to release it at that point. So I'm going to price it really, really competitively as well.
Yorkshire prices.
Yorkshire submissions at Yorkshire prices. But it's not just the knee crush. So there's a little series on knee crush in there, and I didn't just want to do heel hooks because that's what everybody's doing. So I'm actually showing like counter to heel hooks and re-attacks and stuff like that in there. So there's a little bit of a mishmash of everything. So the last one was on straight footlocks. This is a bit more of my weird and wonderful attacks and recounters. So in a lot of my other matches, I think I'll let people attack my legs now because it's easier then to catch. So I think that change in my game came at Polaris when I got brutally submitted by Kieran Davin. I had not trained any leg lock defense at that point. You know, after Denset, so I was like, nobody knows leg locks, I'll be fine. He submitted me very convincingly. So actually, then I worked on defense to the point where I feel comfortable letting people attack my legs, but then I've really worked a lot on recountering at that, and that's when you can catch people out pretty good. So, and this next one's a little bit of a mishmash. I'm still debating on the title, actually. Okay. I think the one I've thrown about was Lock, Snap, and Two Broken Knees. Like that.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that on your Instagram this morning. What's your Instagram?
At Yorkshire Gripper.
Yorkshire Gripper. And have you got any fan pages on Facebook or anything like that?
No, I'm not pretentious enough to have a fan page.
Any YouTube channel yourself? I know that you used to post a lot of...
I did actually, yeah. So I have got it, I think it's just Lloyd Cooper, and I am in the next coming months going to start to dust that off again, but Perfect. More like long. So I think what I've done in the last couple of years is just Instagram 1-minute videos, very diluted, very punchy. But I'm actually going to get a little bit back into, when we're back in the gym, doing a bit more long form. So I'm going to dust my YouTube channel off because I did stuff at Purple Belt when I had a blog page. Obviously, I'm busiest person on earth, but when I'm just going to start getting people to film some of the classes I do in the gym, and I'm going to drop them online. So
brilliant.
It might be worth in a couple of months checking that out. But for a lot of my jiu-jitsu stuff, just check out my Instagram at Yorkshire Gripper.
Okay, and any sponsors that you want to give a shout out to?
Of course. So Scramble brand always looked after me for the last couple of years. As you see in the video at the end, XS mouth guards. Really have looked after me. So local, one-man band in Doncaster, but does some of the best mouth guards out there. Yoga for BJJ. I think I'd be broken if it wasn't for those guys over the years.
It's a great
and I'm being looked after by an outdoors company at the moment because I'm doing a lot of walking. So Holland's Country Clothing as well.
Okay, I saw that on your story as well this morning.
Yeah. No, so they're just sending me some kit because I'm trying to. I think one thing I like to talk about, I guess, is the mental health aspect of competing. And I'm concerned in the future I'm not going to be able to compete as much anymore. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I'm trying to think of things that I need to occupy my brain with, because that's not something, being a competitor is not something you switch off. I don't think that it's going to be easy to just transition to just training and teaching as much. I'm going to find that a struggle. So I'm trying to find other adventures I can get into, and walking, mountaineering. So, and they've been kind enough to send me some kit. So I'm going to try and get out and do a couple of mountains later in the year. And
what were they called? Sorry.
Holland's Country Clothing.
Okay, perfect.
So when you see me on Mount Everest in 2 years.
Yeah, awesome. Pushing Ant Middleton out the way.
I think if I went to do Mount Everest, I think Livy would probably leave me, to be honest.
Yeah, you've got 2 kids to think of.
Yeah, I'd definitely die. That'd just be my luck.
Okay, well, Lloyd, thank you very much for coming on, giving such a detailed, awesome breakdown. combat-media.co.uk?
I think .com.
.com. Okay, I'll put links in the description and things, but you've already got the aggressive straight footlocks instructional out.
Yeah, so if you like straight footlocks, check that out. That's my highest percentage over the years. So, and it's obviously allowable at all belt levels.
Yeah, I have attended and hosted seminars with you and always learned a lot. So thank you for that. I've had private lessons with you. And again, always learned a lot. So anyone that's watching that can, I would definitely recommend you for classes, seminars, and private lessons.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you. Well, appreciate I think we had a good hour at it. But again, I think what you're doing is a great idea and a good niche. So keep it up. Looking forward to the rest of them.
Thank you. So there we have it, an absolutely fantastic breakdown from the man himself, Lloyd Cooper. You can follow him on Instagram at Yorkshire Gripper. You can follow him on YouTube, Lloyd Cooper. He said in the video that he was going to be putting out some classes and instructional videos. Definitely check those out. And look in the show description for his links to his sponsors. Okay, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, and keep up to date with the breakdowns that we'll be putting out.